Blue Tongue Skinks are one of my favorite animals to work with, and they're such a fun lizard for a variety of reasons. Today we're going to talk about the differences between different types of Blue Tongue Skinks, why some might be better for you, and a little bit what that care looks like. I'm Cole, this is Suki, let's get started. Blue tongues as a whole are a lot of fun to work with. They are basically a sausage with legs. As a medium-sized lizard, they're easier to hold, so you kind of just cradle them. As long as your front feet and the back feet are supported, they're going to be just fine with you interacting with them. Although if you do need to maneuver them, they're pretty good all around. Now, not every Blue Tongue Skink is going to be as chill as Suki is here, but a lot of them will put up with you. So their big defense mechanism is that blue tongue of theirs. They will flash that out and maybe even make some huffing sounds. I'm going to maneuver him before he gets too far away. But for the most part, they are just like, holding a sausage. Now, Blue Tongue Skinks are a lot of fun to work with, but they do come with challenges. So their diet, in my opinion, is one of the hardest things to get right. A lot of people recommend dog food or meat products or even insects or rodent feeders, but because of how varied their diet is in the wild, it takes a lot to replicate that in captivity. We're very fortunate to have a dietitian that works with us here at the sanctuary, but a lot of people recommend like I said, the dog food as a way to keep them in captivity. Now that works. However, a lot of the time you will get malnutrition in one form or another if you choose to only do one thing instead of offering a varied diet. As an animal that is basically a garbage disposal, they will eat fruits, vegetables, insects, a rodent diet, or even in the wild, there's been documented cases of them picking pieces off of roadkill. They will eat just about anything in front of them. But if they get too much of one thing, it's not a good thing. And that's true of most animal species. Suki here is very, he's a good size for an Indonesian. He's got some, deformities. He's missing a bit of his tail, for example. But for the most part, he's a pretty good weight. He's pretty good length. And that is as a result of good, varied diet. We try our best to replicate as close as we can to that natural diet, but truthfully, they're very opportunistic, so they're going to eat whatever you put in front of them. Now, between the different species, there's a lot of challenges too. So I'm going to talk a little bit about both here and talk about what that care looks like and why you might want to pick one over the other. This here is Dala. He came into our rescue program, and he's still getting used to me a little bit, but even though he has never seen me prior to about a month ago, he is still fairly chill. So if I reach out and touch him, he might wiggle a little bit, but he's not going to bite. He's not opening that mouth. He's not wiggling around. Now, even though he's not familiar with me or anything like that, because he is an Australian species, typically he is going to be a little bit more chill. The other nice thing about the Australians is that tongue is going to be a lot more vibrant. In Indonesians, it's going to be like a purpley color. Hi, buddy. Whereas in Australians, it is going to be that vibrant blue that you're, kind of looking for in Blue Tongue Skinks. The nice thing about Australians is they are going to be all captive bred. And the reason for that is, and it's the same reason that bearded dragons are such good pets, is they are from Australia. Australia, as of 1982, doesn't export their native animals anymore, which is why in the United States, I believe there's only one zoo, I think it's the San Diego Zoo, that has platypus, right? Such a cool, unique animal. Australia realized that there is so many unique animals in Australia that they need to preserve that biodiversity and not bring in or send out their native species, or bring in species that aren't native that could impact their native species. And so, don't go that way. So they banned the importation or exportation in order to protect their species. He's just testing his boundaries right now. But Northerns, being all captive bred, are going to be more generations in captivity, so they're going to be a little bit more chill, for lack of a better term. They are going to be just fine for the most part with handling, and they are going to be a little bit more colorful. What's interesting is because they aren't exported, there are more color variations of Australian blue tongue skink in Australia because they can't get other lizards there. So the ones that they do have, typically they have bred for a lot more morphs than we have here in the United States. You are really explorative right now. Now these guys are going to be a little bit chunkier in my experience, and a little bit less long. They're a little bit more stout in the tail especially. Whereas Indonesians, you would not believe how long that and skinny that tail gets. But their care is going to be more in, their humidity is going to be about 40 to 60% humidity. So not much different from your room humidity. But their temperatures are going to be a little bit higher. They are from a more arid place. So naturally that makes sense. That also is why that tongue gets more blue, right? Because they're going to be a lot more in the sun, so that tongue needs to be able to reflect that sunlight a little bit more effectively, so it's a little bit more vibrant. You okay? You chilling? But like I said, I have only worked with this animal for a very short amount of time, and he is still very inquisitive, very explorative, and not defensive at all. Now, he was from a good home, so that comes with being more handleable. However, most blue tongues from Australia, whether it be easterns or northerns or anything like that, are going to be more chill typically. Now, are you just going to hang out if I hold you? Is that better? Okay, we're going to do that for a bit. Now, now that I don't have to focus so much on keeping him managed, you're going to see those markings are going to be a little bit more pronounced in him. That is how to identify them if they're just marked as a blue tongue skink at an expo or as a pet at a pet store. A lot of the time they will not say the locality, or they will not say the region of Australia that they are from, or even if they are from Australia. And so knowing what you're looking for, or knowing what resources to look for to identify them can help you single that down. It's not super important as long as you know if they are from Australia or from Indonesia, rather than the specific region doesn't change their care that much. But typically, because they're captive bred, the prices are going to be quite a bit higher. I would venture to even say probably double what you'd see with an Indonesian, because they're not competing with the wild, importation. They are all going to be captive bred. Now, with being captive bred, you don't have to worry about parasites. You don't have to worry about sassiness as much. You just have to worry about keeping him alive here and now. Now, the one thing with that is it's usually best if you ask the breeder, or get them straight from a breeder first off, and then ask the breeder, what has been working for you. It's kind of hard to change the diet or change the habits that a blue tongue has already developed, but if you know what they have done in the past, then it is fairly easy to continue that pattern of behavior or care, moving forward, or at least knowing what to taper off of. But a lot less challenges that way, and personally a lot more enjoyable of a pet, in my opinion. If I don't have to worry about their health when they come in as much, that is a lot nicer for me. Whereas when an Indonesian comes in, my first thing I'm looking for in a rescue sense is, does it have mites? Does it have any other issues? Because it's a lot I would say it's a lot easier to mess up an Indonesian's care than it is to mess up a northern's care, primarily because of that humidity standpoint. A lot of reptiles are very, very hardy, especially skinks. They can put up with a lot of mistakes, but if you have consistently bad humidity, consistently low temperatures, things like that, you're gonna have issues eventually. You're gonna have a better experience, especially as a newer keeper, getting a species that is captive bred rather than wild caught. Now Suki here is a pretty chill dude, so I can move him around, I can place him where I want him to, I can hold him like a baby and he'll just kind of sit in my arms as long as he feels supported. But not all Indonesians are like that. So Indonesians, typically you're not always going to get them captive bred. Now that comes with its own challenges, but especially in the sense of you're going to have potential issues with parasites, potential sassiness. Even if they are captive bred, if they're less generations into captivity and they haven't been worked with as their babies, they will be a little spicier. Suki is one of the few Indonesian blue tongue skinks that is this chill that I've worked with. A lot of the time when one comes in, you pick it up and it just poops all over you, or it's hissing, or it's wiggling all over. But Suki's been with us for so long that he has had time to tame down. Now we do know Suki was captive bred, but unfortunately, not being Australian, you kind of rolling the dice with that. He is a Halmahera blue tongue skink, but all Indonesian blue tongue skinks you can identify by having the thin black bands. Typically, now some you're going to get some variation, but as well as the sort of grayer, undertones, for lack of a better term. The other challenges with Indonesians are humidity. Australian blue tongue skinks are going to be very similar to the care of a bearded dragon. With Indonesian blue tongue skinks, you're going to have lower basking spots with much higher humidity, so 70 to 100% humidity typically. That is the challenge with keeping these guys, but then you also can, if you feel so inclined, keep more live plants in there. It's a little bit easier. You get a little bit more tropical species of isopods and things if you're going bioactive, but for the most part, their care is going to be a little bit harder in some cases. The other thing about Indonesian blue tongue skinks is that because they are still being wild caught in a lot of cases, you do, in the industry, you are going to see them at lower prices. Now those prices are going to be made up for in other cases. So by having potential for parasites, both internal and external, so potential for mites and things like that, you will be making up for that, save in money later in a lot of cases. Now that's not always true. A lot of the times they will, if they do have anything internal, they are, healthy enough to accommodate for that. But you do have a lot of other risks. You might need to do dewormer, or you might need to do baths and for the first couple weeks as you get them in. And with that, you do run the risk of potentially bringing things into your collection, and you don't really want to risk that in a lot of cases. But as a whole, either way, if you're willing to put in the time and the effort for an Indonesian species, I would at the very least recommend looking for a breeder of those species. They're not as common as for northerns, but they are around. I'm a very big fan of skinks because they're very easy to work with, and you don't have to worry about their behavior that much. You're just gonna headbutt me. And once you have it down, they're very, very, very hardy animals, and they can give you a long and happy relationship with them. With that said, if you like this video and you want to see more like it, maybe subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you liked about this video and what you didn't like in this video, and throw a like if you enjoyed. If you want to see more videos like it, I hope to see you real soon. Bye bye. Oh, Nessie just unplugged her UVB. That was intense. You're really making my job a challenge today. So, for example, as they get larger, it's a little bit easier to feed them maybe rodents or some like meaty products, or even dog food in a lot of cases. But oh, Suki, thank you for that. Perks of working with live animals.